Welcome back to Things You Missed, and prepare yourself to relive your childhood nightmares, because in today's episode we're looking at the teasers for Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Stick around to the end of this video if you want to hear how these classic stories tie together in this new movie. At the time of making this video, there are 4 teasers for Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, and they're filled with references to the original trilogy of children's horror stories. Now, I was more of a Scary Stories for Sleepovers kind of kid myself, maybe a little bit of Goosebumps, but I'm definitely interested in the new movie because the teasers look intense, like they're aimed for kids who grew up with these stories and are now adults. Let's take a look at the first clip.
Based on the iconic book series.
The creature in this teaser is a recreation of the monster from the short story called The Dream, which appeared in Scary Stories 3. The tale is about an artist named Lucy who goes from town to town to paint various villages. She decides to go to a village called Kingston, but the night before leaving, she has a dream about this pale-skinned woman, warning her to flee while she still can, that this is an evil place. So the next morning she wakes up and decides to go to a different town, Dorset. As she's looking for a place to stay in Dorset, she looks at a room that resembles the room from her dream, which makes her uneasy. The landlady goes to make some tea and give Lucy some time to think it over when the pale-skinned woman appears before her, sending Lucy running for the hills. In the movie, the creature approaches a boy down a long hall with a red light, which tells us that this movie may not be an anthology of scary stories adapted into short films, but rather that the stories exist as stories within the world of the movie, and that maybe the characters find themselves in trouble when they discover that these stories are true. Another story from the book is showcased in the next teaser.
Scary Stories.
The story is called The Red Spot, and it's about a girl named Ruth who's paid a visit by a spider as she sleeps. The next morning she notices a red spot on her cheek that looks like a spider bite, but instead of going away over time, the spot grows until one day it bursts while she's in the bath, and tons of baby spiders come crawling out because the boil was actually filled with spider eggs. In the movie, the girl discovers a spider's leg in the red spot before it bursts, and she's in high school when it happens. The roof tiles are similar to those in the first teaser, leading me to believe that they could all be in this school together. If you know anything about the Scary Stories books, you probably recognized the next monster. This is the first story in the first book, in which a boy pulls out this toe from the woods and he brings it home for some reason, and his mom prepares it as part of her soup and they eat it for dinner. If you never want to have soup again, I completely understand. But not much is different here in the movie because the next thing that happens is the monster comes after the boy. The monster in the book is also described as having a huge mouth and teeth to chomp its victim's bones, but the movie version looks more like the Green Giants. The last teaser is a little bit more ambiguous. It has the boy from the first teaser who keeps saying, "We're next," and then this other kid is attacked by this green goblin looking ghoulo. I don't think there's a specific story or piece of artwork that this guy is from in the books, so my guess is that this is one of the many unseen monsters from the stories. Probably 30% of all of these stories in the books follow the exact same formula, where somebody's in a spooky house or location and they hear something coming towards them and getting closer and closer, and then whatever it is that's making the sound disappears and the story ends. So my guess is that this friendly looking guy is one of those monsters, but this time he comes and breaks down the door. There's also this other shot in the teaser. This last one is just packed with stuff, and it appears to be water dripping into a horse trough. There are 3 stories with horses in the series. One where a witch turns a man into a horse at night, one where 2 kids are attacked by a ghostly tribe of men on horseback, and one where a fortune teller predicts that a man's horse will lead to his death, which is most likely what we're seeing here. So how do all these stories connect and make a movie? According to the studio, a group of teenagers in the 60s discover a book of stories whose legends begin to turn real, resulting in horrific deaths across their town. So I think they'll discover that the tales of horror read about in the books are the key to overcoming these monsters in real life. Let me know in the comments if there are any stories that you'd like to see incorporated into the movie, and remember to subscribe to CZsWorld and ring the death bell for notifications so you don't miss out on upcoming Things You Missed episodes like the Scary Stories official trailer. And if you love short horror stories, click on the playlist on the left to listen to some creepy stories that I've written. As always, I will see you in the next one, assuming we both survive.